Good day, everyone. In behalf of the principal author, Dr. Ricardo Reyes III from the Universidad de Manila and co-author, Dr. Maricela Martinez from Pamantasan Lungsod ng Maynila, I, Dr. Jennifer P. Reyes, co-author too, also from Pamantasan Lungsod ng Maynila, is grateful and honored to present the paper entitled Impact of Work-Related Problems on the Performance Level of Teachers in the Senior High School Department of a Local Government-Funded University. To begin with, let me give you the introduction. The Philippine Republic Act 10533 or the K-12 Basic Education Program aims to have a quality education at par with international standard. The K-12 enhanced the Philippine basic education from 10 years to 13 years. It is mandated in the program that all Filipino children entering grade 1 must have undergone kindergarten. Basically, K-12 means kindergarten, plus 6 years in elementary, plus 4 years in the junior high school, plus 2 years in the senior high school. The implementation of the K-12 in the Philippines, more specifically the 2-year senior high school, is coupled with different problems that the senior high school teachers have encountered. Some of the senior high school teachers of a local government-funded university verbalized to the researchers that they predict, think, and feel that this new system affects the standard of education in the country, which eventually affects their motivation and performance. In the work of Bruto 2013, it was found that most of the challenges associated with the teaching of the subject range from inadequate instructional materials to teachers' motivation. The study concluded that managerial support for teachers was inadequate in the procurement of instructional materials for teaching, recruitment of teachers, provision of funds for seminars and workshops, and motivation of performing teachers. The implication for this kind of work-related problem encountered by the teachers at the senior high school include additional burdens on their shoulders, less concentration or focus on the teaching learning process due to the enormous challenges they are facing, especially in terms of the classroom requirements, as well as in other facilities, instructional materials, and laboratories. Keywords: work-related problems, performance of teachers, senior high school teachers, work-related problems of teachers. For the method, the study utilized the descriptive correlation design to determine if there is a significant relationship between the impact or degree of seriousness of work-related problems experienced by the teacher at the senior high school department of a local government-funded university and their performance level using researchers-made questionnaires validated by experts in the field of education and psychology, pre-tested prior to actual data collection. Ethical and legal aspects were considered during the data collection. The researchers obtained written consent from the respondent. All were informed of the objective of the study and steps involved in data collection. They were assured that data elicited from them would be kept strictly confidential and protected using codes and anonymity. For the result, Figure 1 shows the demographic profile of the respondent teachers in terms of teaching experience. Based on the illustrations, majority of the respondent teachers belong to 1 to 3 years of teaching experience, comprising 37%. The second were those that belongs to the 10 years and above, with 26%, and the last were those who belong to the 7 to 9 years of teaching experience with only 5%. This data shows that the local government-funded university as a combination of teachers that range from experience to less experience in terms of teaching professions. Their interaction result to continuing professional development as the less experienced teacher learn from conversation with and observation of experienced teachers who are willing to share their ideas about teaching. Figure 2 illustrate the demographic profile of the respondent teacher in terms of highest educational attainment, shows that 37% of the respondent teachers were holding MA units, same also for those with bachelor's degree. The lowest were those with doctoral degree or PhD units with only 10%. This means that most of the respondent teachers choose to return to school to obtain master's degree to gain new knowledge to best impact their student. This degree also allows them to hone their abilities and become expert educators. This is confirmed by ASWAR 2014, who said that teachers who obtain master's degree are more likely to improve their teaching skills and improve outcomes for students. Table 1 displays the summary of work-related problems experienced by the respondent teacher. The top 3 highest work-related problems include work compensation-related problems with the highest mean score 4.14. The second highest is supply and facility-related problem, and the third highest is administration-related problems with mean score of 3.42 and 2.65 respectively. Work compensation-related problem has the highest item. Table 2 illustrate that amongst the items, the top 3 work-related problem of the respondent teachers in terms of work compensations were not receiving their salary on time being the first and highest, followed by not receiving monetary rewards for their good performance in school, not providing cash advances and petty loans for their emergency financial needs. This finding indicate that both the indirect and direct compensations were problems to the respondent teachers. This is supported by the findings of the works of Jonathan Darroch and Tibetti, 2013, which state that teachers also need adequate remuneration. If they believe they are not compensated well, a state of emotional dissatisfaction develops. According to Narimawati 2017, the teachers are attracted to jobs that make it possible for them to meet their daily needs. And unless these needs are achieved, teachers cannot realize their full potential and will begin to be less committed to teaching. Table 3 illustrates the work-related problems experienced by the respondent teacher in terms of supplies and facilities-related problems. Second, to work compensation-related problems, the highest for Table 3 is about having a great need of additional classroom for growing pupil population with mean score of 3.74. The second is about having limited laboratory facilities in science and other subjects. And the third is about having inadequate ventilation and lighting with mean score of 3.32. This finding depicts that among the problems for school supplies and facilities, the respondent teachers of the local government-funded university were very much problematic about their great need for more classroom. This can be attributed to the fact that the university is a local university being funded by the local government. With its premise, their budget is tightly limited. That is why there is a shortage of classroom. Table 4 shows the work-related problem experienced by respondent teacher in terms of administration-related problems as the third highest work-related problem experienced by the respondent teachers. Amongst its items, the highest is about showing little concern on the personal and financial needs of their teachers with mean score of 2.84. The second is failed to show fairness in the evaluation of the teacher's performance. And the third is failed to provide the past system of recognition and promotion with a mean score of 2.68. This finding suggests that the administrator of the local government-funded university were more concerned about other priorities facing the school. Because of this, other matters become unnoticed. That is why administrations were being perceived indifferent by the respondent teachers, thus led to negative attitudes towards them that they have lack of interest in some areas that they should have been the one leading it. Table 5 shows the level of impact of work-related problem experienced by respondent teachers as to their physical performance with an overall mean score of 3.25, interpreted as low extent of impact. This impact indicates that the physical performances of the respondent teachers were not so much affected by the work-related problems. This can be attributed to the fact that it is a local government-funded university and has a combination of teachers that range from novice to well-experienced. These combinations makes them work together as one in guiding, counseling, and disciplining students and managing classes. The use of active and collaborative experiences contributes to student engagement, especially in class. That is why, as teachers, they do not feel physically tired at all and can continue well until the end of their classes. This finding is supported by the work of Armstrong, 2006, which reported that working conditions that are compatible with an employee's physical comfort facilitate doing a good job contributing to job satisfaction. Table 6 displayed the level of impact of work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers as to their intellectual performance with an overall mean score of 2.93, interpreted as low extent of impact. This impact indicates that intellectual performances of the respondent teachers were not so much affected by the work-related problem. This can be traced from the fact that teaching is a knowledge-rich profession with teachers as the learning specialists. They are expected to process and evaluate knowledge relevant for their core professional practice even under pressure from work. Thus, they regularly updated their knowledge base to increase their intellect, to improve their practice, and to meet new teaching demands. This is supported by the findings from the profile of the respondent that most of the respondent teachers were holding MA units or having a continuing education to uplift their knowledge base. They keep themselves to pace on this path of change to implement new or modified methods of teaching learning process to suit the requirements of today's education. Table 7 illustrates the level of impact of work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers as to their psychological performance, with an overall mean score of 3.14, interpreted as to a low extent of impact. This result indicates that the psychological performances of the respondent teachers were not so much affected by the work-related problem. This is because teacher can simply adjust to their profession by setting up positive course towards greater everyday resilience and more constructive engagement with their students and colleagues. Table 8 shows the level of impact of work-related problems experienced by respondent teacher as to their behavioral performance, with an overall mean score of 3.16, interpreted as low extent of impact. This indicates that the behavioral performance of the respondent teachers were not so much affected by the work-related problem. This is because most of the respondent teachers are on the early stages of their career, as mentioned in the findings. For their profile, that mostly they are in 1 to 3 years of teaching experience, which is usually exposed to some of the greatest challenges with regards to teaching. In lieu of this, they have been learning how to cope up with these demands and use different coping processes as interventions to promote teachers' effectiveness and engagement. Table 9 shows the performance level of the respondent as a senior high school teacher in terms of classroom management skills, with an overall mean score of 4.14, interpreted as very satisfactory level of performance. These findings implies that in terms of classroom management skill, the respondent teachers had been very satisfactorily performing. Their actions lead to the provision of classroom environment in which teaching and learning can flourish. This is supported by the statement of Emir and Saborni, 2015, and Everstone and Weinstein, 2006, which explained that classroom management is the process by which teachers and school create, maintain appropriate behavior of students in classroom setting. According to Bradshaw 2014, teachers create a positive school culture, like coming to class adequately prepared for the day's lesson and using their time and student time efficiently and effectively by clearly defining positive expectation that students should also come to school adequately prepared and use their time efficiently and effectively. Table 10 displayed the performance level of respondent as a senior high school teacher in terms of communication skills, with an overall mean score of 4.02, interpreted as very satisfactory level of performance. The highest among the items is about them listening properly and attentively, with mean score of 4.21, interpreted as excellent level of performance. The findings implies that in terms of communication skills, the respondent teachers also had been very satisfactory performing. They see their role as one of the helping the students to learn at a deeper level by understanding new ideas and concepts so well that they can apply them in work situation. Table 11 illustrates the performance level of the respondent as a senior high school teacher in terms of instructional skills, with an overall mean score of 4.08, interpreted as very satisfactory level of performance. The highest among the items is about giving example and illustration to clarify the subject matter, with a mean score of 4.21, interpreted as excellent level of performance. The findings implies that in terms of instructional skills, the respondent teachers also have been very satisfactorily performing. As an effective teacher, they can transmit knowledge effectively using a wide variety of instructional strategies. This includes activities that help the respondent teachers create their classroom environment for good quality learning to occur. The table 12 shows the performance level of the respondent as a senior high school teacher in terms of knowledge of the subject matter, with an overall mean score of 4.23, interpreted as excellent level of performance. The highest among the item is showing mastery of the subject matter I teach in class, with a mean score of 4.54, interpreted as excellent level of performance. The findings illustrate that in terms of knowledge of the subject matter, the respondent teachers had been greatly performing. This can be attributed to the given fact that when someone is going to teach, then this someone should really know a lot about the subject in order to organize and use content knowledge more effectively for their students to understand. The teacher's professional knowledge affects all phases of instructions, lesson, content and planning, implementation, assessment, and reflection. Table 13 displayed the performance level of the respondent as a senior high school teacher in terms of methods of evaluation, with an overall mean score of 4.08, interpreted as very satisfactory level of performance. The highest among the items are giving examinations based upon the lessons covered in the class and constructing test questions that are congruent with the objective of the lesson, both with mean score of 4.21, interpreted as excellent level of performance. The findings displayed that in terms of methods of evaluation, the respondent teachers also had been very satisfactorily performing. The reason for this is that the respondent teachers knew that every teacher in any classroom is expected to document their students' performance. Table 14 shows the performance level of respondent as a senior high school teacher in terms of teachers' characteristic with an overall mean score of 4.03, interpreted as very satisfactory level of performance. The highest among the items is about observing proper grooming, looking and attire, with a mean score of 4.21, interpreted as excellent level of performance. The findings display that in terms of teachers' characteristic, the respondent teachers also have been very satisfactorily performing. This is because the respondent teachers knew that maintaining a professional image is important in the teaching profession, that the teachers who dressed in a professional manner were perceived by students as being believable, knowledgeable, and qualified. This is supported by Wong 2005-2009, stated that the attire of the teachers contribute to the perceptiveness and receptiveness of the students. He added that attire influences the respect that students have for a teacher, and respect is necessary if optimal learning is to take place. For the presentation of the next table, may I present Dr. Ricardo Reyes to continue the presentation of result with table 15.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jennifer Reyes. To continue the results, table 15 presents the difference in work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to demographic profile in terms of length of work experience. The table shows that the null hypothesis 1 was accepted and that there were no significant differences between the work-related problems that include student, student's parent, peer, administration, compensation, and supplies and facilities experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to length of work experience, all with p-values greater than 0.05 level of significance. This finding can be credited to the fact that most of the respondent teachers belong to 1 to 3 years of teaching experience. That is why they do not differ in terms of the work-related problems they experience. Table 16, difference in work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to demographic profile in terms of highest educational attainment. The data on the table shows that the null hypothesis 1 was accepted and that there were no significant differences between the work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to highest educational attainment, all with p-values greater than 0.05 level of significance. This finding is also attributed again to the fact that the most of the respondent teachers were holding MA units. That's why they do not differ in terms of the work-related problems they experienced. Table 17, difference in the impact of work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to demographic profile in terms of length of work experience. The data on the table displays that the null hypothesis 2 was accepted and that there were no significant differences between the impact of work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to the length of work experience, all with p-values greater than 0.05 level of significance. These findings can be attributed to the fact that most of the respondent teachers belong to 1 to 3 years of teaching experience. That is why they do not differ in terms of impact of the work-related problems they experience. Table 18, difference in the impact of the work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to demographic profile in terms of highest educational attainment. The data on the table displays that the null hypothesis 2 was accepted and that there were no significant differences between the impact of work-related problems experienced by respondent teachers when grouped according to the highest educational attainment, all with p-values greater than 0.05 level of significance. This finding can be attributed to the fact that most of the respondent teachers were holding MA units, same also with those with bachelor's degree. That is why they do not differ in terms of impact of work-related problems they experience. Table 19, difference in the performance level of the respondent teachers when grouped according to demographic profile in terms of length of work experience. The table illustrates that the null hypothesis 3 was accepted and that there was no significant difference in the performance level of respondent teachers in terms of classroom management, communication skills, instructional skills, knowledge of the subject matter, methods of evaluation, and teachers' characteristics when grouped according to length of work experience, all with p-values greater than 0.05 level of significance. This finding can be traced again to the fact that most of the respondent teachers belong to 1 to 3 years of teaching experience. That is why they do not differ in terms of their performance level. Table 20, difference in the performance level of respondent teachers when grouped according to demographic profile in terms of highest educational attainment. The table displays that the null hypothesis 3 was accepted and that there were no significant differences in the performance level of the respondent teachers in terms of classroom management, communication skills, instructional skills, knowledge of the subject matter, methods of evaluation, and teachers' characteristics when grouped according to the highest educational attainment, all with p-values greater than 0.05 level of significance. This finding can be attributed again to the fact that most of the respondent teachers were holding MA units. That is why, in terms of educational attainment, the respondent teachers do not differ in terms of their performance level. They have been educated from bachelor's to master's degree in the same ways that they must learn the art of managing their classroom, attain and sustain different teaching skills, master their subject matter, and how their student can be evaluated. In addition, they also learned from these degrees on how to maintain and sustain good teachers' characteristics. Therefore, they have similar performances in teaching the students. Table 21, relationship between the impact of work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers and their performance level. The table illustrates that there are no significant relationships between the impact of work-related problems as regards to classroom management, communication skills, intellectual skills, knowledge of the subject matter, methods of evaluation, and teacher characteristics experienced by the respondent teachers and their performance level in terms of physical, intellectual, psychological, and behavioral performances as determined by p-values which are all greater than 0.05 level of significance. These findings indicate that the respondent teachers' performance level are not affected or associated with the existence of work-related problems. This also means that respondent teachers can still control the learning and direction of their classroom, free from distractions. They do not mind that they are teaching a number of students with different needs, behavior, and attention spans, which can be challenging, aside from the fact that they are also confronted with other work-related problems, such as delayed salary and lack of school facilities and instructional materials. Their positive outlook created instructional classrooms that inspires learning and reduces conflict. The implication for this is that class will still experience an excellent atmosphere for learning inside the classroom, despite of the problem encountered by the teachers. At this point, may I now present the conclusion. Based on the result of the study, the following conclusions were drawn. Senior high school department of a local government-funded university has a combination of teachers that range from experience to less experience in terms of teaching profession, and mostly were holding MA units. Work compensation-related problems is the highest problem experienced by respondent teachers, that money possesses significant motivating power in as much as it symbolizes intangible goals like security, power, prestige, and feeling of accomplishment and success. Respondent teachers have a low extent of impact to these work-related problems, that they have very satisfactory performance in classroom management, communication skills, instructional skills, knowledge of the subject matter, methods of evaluation, and have very good teachers' characteristics. There were no significant differences between the impact of the work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers when grouped according to length of work experience and highest educational attainment. And there were no significant differences in the performance level of the respondent teachers in terms of classroom management, communication skills, instructional skills, knowledge of the subject matter, methods of evaluation, and teachers' characteristics when grouped according to the length of experience and highest educational attainment. This finding concluded that teachers could handle great diversities of students who will enroll in the interest of meeting their needs and finding appropriate learning activities, which requires a great deal of care and skills. They were hired with a distinct qualification that they possess great teaching characteristics, teaching skills, and mastery of the subject matter to do their share of teaching and learning process with the orientation that they must be able to manage their students. They have been educated for bachelor to master's degree in the same ways that they learn the art of managing their classrooms, attain and sustain different teaching skills, master their subject matter, and how their students can be evaluated. Therefore, they have similar performances in teaching the students. And the last but not the least, there is no significant relationship between the impact of the work-related problems experienced by the respondent teachers and their performance level in terms of classroom management skills, communication skills, instructional skills, knowledge of the subject matter, methods of evaluation, and teachers' characteristics. This finding concluded that the overall performance of the respondent teachers is not affected by the work-related problems. They perform their obligation as a teacher to be professionally effective in their job for them to have a significant influence on their students' achievement, even if they have problems on the side. After analyzing the result and upon evaluating the following conclusions, it was recommended that teachers in senior high school should increase their awareness and knowledge on what work-related problems they were encountering in relation to their performance level. School administrators should have an increased information and awareness about the work-related problems, especially work compensation problems that affect the performance level of their senior high school teachers. They should consider the improvement of the work compensation, especially on salary, school facilities and instructional materials, and administration problem areas, making the senior high school teachers' performance level more outstanding than before, thus making them more motivated and empowered. Academic institutions should consider the implication of this study in developing a program or operating procedure to minimize problems that are encountered by their faculty. Students should be more active and participative as well as disciplined during the teaching learning process to minimize problems being encountered by their teachers and themselves. Before we end up our presentation, we would like to acknowledge and present to you the following references used in the research that guided the study. And with that, we thank everyone for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to send your message to the following email address, and we will be very much happy to reply. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.